Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. Arjuna has expressed his reluctance to fight. In response, Krishna begins philosophical instruction to Arjuna. The beginning of philosophical instruction is to understand the difference between the soul and the body. And Lord Krishna discusses this thoroughly in this section of Bhagavad Gita. Here he refers to the soul as Sat, that which is real and eternal, and the body as Asat, that which has no sustained reality, which is temporary and therefore, in the true sense of the term, not real. Now we may wonder why Krishna is speaking about this. Arjuna wants to know whether it's proper to fight or not, and Lord Krishna begins a detailed philosophical discourse. Why is that? Well, Arjuna's decision to fight or not fight means that he is considering the pros and cons. Before deciding on any course of action, we should consider what are the advantages and disadvantages, is it right, is it wrong, especially if it's a very major decision. Now, what are the criteria for us to decide? Just like, for instance, you have an offer of a job. You can earn more money, but you have to move 200 kilometers away. So then you consider, well, then I have to move away, and then I have to cook for myself and rent a house separately, and so much expenses will be there, and I won't see my family. So even though I get a little more money, but the overall, there's not, the benefit is, it's better just to stay in what I'm doing now. So what are the criteria for making any decision? It's based on what is best for ourselves and for those who we are closely connected with. So Arjuna, he was in the same situation, and he thought that not to fight was best for himself, because he thought that by fighting he would get sinful reaction. He thought it was best for those closely connected with himself, because those connected with himself were all present in the battle and they would all be killed. Now, the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, we're just at the beginning now, but the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is bhakti, that we should fully surrender in loving devotional service to Krishna. And Arjuna's ultimate decision to fight was based on that principle, that everything should be done for the satisfaction of Krishna. And this message is meant for everyone, although not everyone has such difficult decision to make, to fight against one's own family members. But Arjuna could only engage in bhakti by understanding that that we are not the bodies, and the soul is eternal, but the bodies are not. We cannot actually engage in bhakti unless we understand this. Now, what is bhakti? Well, bhakti consists of certain activities, among which 9 are prominent, which you can say.
Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam.
All based on Vishnu. Smaranam means Vishnu Smaranam, not anyone else Smaranam. So these activities should be performed, but with what attitude? Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana kamadhyana vritam anukulyena Krishna anushilanam Krishna bhakti rutama. You can give the translation also. Now we see that many people engage in the activities of Shravan, Kirtan, Archan, but it appears that they're doing it for the benefit of their bodies and that which is connected with their bodies. For instance, I was recently at a temple in North India, and you'll experience this in many places, where the groups of tourists come in by bus, and the priests there, they bring all the people in, and then they tell the story of the temple, the same story every time, and they have everyone say Jai, the name of the deity, and then they solicit them for donations. And we heard that the priests there had paid 2 crores to get like a 3-year contract to run that temple, something like that. So they were busy to make their money back. And more with profit. They probably had to take a bank loan. So they were doing Krishna Katha, telling the story of the deity and having everyone chant his names. But their motive was something else. They were interested in utilizing the facility, utilizing the sentiments of the people, the devotional sentiments of the people, for business purposes, for the upkeep of their bodies and those of their families. Now, another place we were in, the priests there, they were not so grossly mercantile, and they had more spirit of genuine bhakti. And one was telling me with obvious pleasure that, well, we're so fortunate. We wake up with the Lord and we go to sleep with the Lord, and our whole day is based around Him. So that is very nice. Just like we're reminded of the residents of Dwarka, who the Yadu Vangsha, who they're like that. They lived with Krishna, and they spent practically the whole day, every day with Krishna. And they felt very happy to think that Krishna is our Lord, He's maintaining us, and we're very happy. So that we often see that people, they're very happy, the Lord is protecting me, He's maintaining me. Even, you see, you don't have to be very rich, but even if you're just poor, but you can think, well, whatever I have, that's by the grace of the Lord. But then the test comes in difficulties. If we're living peacefully and worshipping the Lord, but then so many difficulties come, then our bhakti is tested. That is how deep our faith is in Krishna, how much our attachment to Him is. If we think that His duty is to maintain our comfortable situation, and as long as He does that, we like Him, and if not, we don't like Him, then that's not really bhakti, is it? In this material world, we're all very much attached to our bodies and those of our relations. That is the nature of this material world. So many times people ask us questions like this, that, well, I'm chanting and still I have so many material problems. They seem to be getting worse. I'm doing bhakti, but it seems to be so many material problems. So many times people ask like that. They presume that, well, if I'm good and I do bhakti, then surely Krishna, He will make my material situation very nice. They presume that the role of Bhagavan is to make our material life very comfortable. And if He doesn't, then their faith in Bhagavan declines. We hear the stories of devotees who went through so many difficulties, like Prahlad Maharaj, the Pandavas, so many. And we think, well, that's nice stories. But we don't think that should apply to us, even slightly. But this is why Krishna gives this knowledge in Bhagavad Gita, that we're not the body. Na sato vidyate bhavo. That which is not spirit, that will not last. So we're very much attached to our bodies, to our family members, to our property, to our house, to our bank balance, all these things. But we should consider this is asat, this is temporary. That we consider it is my property, my family, my body, my bank balance, that is also asat. Asat means that which is temporary. So all these things are temporary. And asat means also that which is not proper. So our attachments to these temporary things, that is improper, it is asat. So one should regularly hear this and consider it, because our attachments to this material world, they bind us in this material world. And even though we may do bhakti, shravan, kirtan, smaran, all these things, because of our material attachments, that bhakti, it's not really on the spiritual platform. We may not be as grossly materialistic as the priests who make a 2 crore contract to worship the Lord, but it's more or less the same, it's a similar attitude if we think that the Lord is the supplier of our material needs. Another great misconception is that this talk of detachment, that's meant for the sannyasis, not for the grihastas. But that is meant for the grihastas as much as the sannyasis. Sannyasi, grihasta, whatever, we all have to die. And at the time of death, it's not tested whether you're sannyasi or grihasta, it's tested, are we attached to Krishna or are we attached to Maya? So if we remain attached to Sutamita Ramani Samaja, the society, friendship and love, instead of remaining attached or becoming attached to Krishna, then we have to take birth again. Grihasta can develop pure love for Krishna, but he has to overcome his contaminated attachments to this material world. The sannyasi also has to give up his attachments to this material world. It's not just by taking sannyas that one's mind automatically becomes purified of all attachments. But either way, we have to understand, we're not these bodies. These bodies are not meant for us to enjoy or become attached to. Now, you may think that why always in ISKCON we're talking all this heavy philosophy. If you go to other places, if you go to other Bhakti Sampradayas, they'll tell you so many nice stories of Krishna. We shall do also. But we have to become eligible to understand that. As long as we are maintaining material attachments, then even though we hear the stories of Krishna, we cannot enter into the spirit of that. First we should understand Krishna's teachings in Bhagavad Gita. Beginning with, we're not the body. Without understanding that, we will take it that Krishna is like us, he's like a magician with a material body. If we don't understand the basic difference between spirit and body, then how can we understand the Supreme Spirit? So to understand this, we have to hear very carefully, with great faith, that what Krishna is speaking is wholly relevant to ourselves. Otherwise, many times we've seen people, they take to bhakti, they do chanting, they follow the principles, and then they come across some difficulties in their life and they become discouraged and they give it up. That means that the bhaktilata bij, the seed of the creeper of devotion, never got properly planted in their hearts. If one gives up bhakti because of some difficulties, it means he was never really doing bhakti in the first place anyway. It means that the motive is not to satisfy Krishna. So this anyabhilashita shunya, this cultivation of this spirit that I am only meant to satisfy Krishna, that can only take place when we clearly understand that our relationship is only with Krishna. That we really, really, really have nothing to do with this material world. That doesn't mean that we should be callous towards our family members. But at the same time, we should understand that our relationship with them is only because of our relationship with Krishna, who is the Supreme Father of all living beings. So, parents, please look after your children very nicely. And children, please respect your parents very nicely. Knowing that my children and my parents are all part and parcel of Krishna. We have attained this human form of life after many births. So we should utilize this birth for understanding, and by the arrangement of Krishna's external energy, those who are bodily related to us, we shall relate with them very nicely, understanding them to be parts and parcels of Krishna. Is that a good proposition? It seems to be very difficult in this Kali Yuga. It's a difficult age, no doubt. And people are very difficult to deal with. And we're also very difficult. People give us problems, and our own mind gives us problems also. But everyone should just cool down and remember that we should take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. Don't become too much disturbed by anything happening in this material world. Remember, everything here is temporary. My relationship with Krishna is eternal. Therefore, we should cultivate that loving relationship with Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And hearing about Krishna from Bhagavad Gita as it is, Srimad Bhagavatam, and other related literature. Somehow or other we should live peacefully in this crazy world, knowing that we don't belong here. We belong in the spiritual world with Krishna. So, as long as we have to live here, we should go on chanting the holy names of the Lord and prepare ourselves for entering our real home, the spiritual world, the abode of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, is there any question about this? Short and to the point. Short and to the point. Any questions, please? Anyone has 2 crores? Instead of using it for a contract, you can give it to us and we'll build a temple for Krishna. So everyone who wants to donate 2 crores, please see me afterwards. The people with 2 crores, they don't come here. When we build a 2 crore temple, they might come because they think this is all right for me. But the topics that we are discussing are worth more than millions of crores. But people think in terms of worldly respectability, and they think, this is not up to my standard. They don't appreciate the value of hearing Bhagavad Gita as it is. So we should build a big, nice temple so people think, yes, this is good. And then they'll come and listen and hear that all these material attachments are nonsense. Whether we're attached to a big opulent house, or whether we can be attached also to a little shack, jhopar, I don't know, slum, hutment. We can also be attached for the wrong reason to the temple of the Lord. Just like those priests with the 2 crore contract, they thought that we have a leasehold over the temple now, so it's we can do what we like to extract money. That is very dangerous. That is the wrong attitude. Yeah, was there any question? What's this question?
This question is, we are realizing that we are not soul, we are this body. But you are saying
that's what we realize.
Yeah. And you are saying that we are not this body, but we are soul. So how you realize that we are not this body, we are spirit soul?
Yeah, say it again in Tamil so everyone can hear. Yeah, it seems like we're the body. It seems like we are the body. But where does just like we can feel, if I touch, you can feel. So it feels that I am the body. If I touch here, I feel something. But how does that sense of perception come? Is it simply the interaction of some molecules? If that is so, then when the body dies, then we should be able to make some injection to bring it back to life. But the chemicals themselves do not constitute life. When the living force leaves the body, then however much vitamin tablets you put in, it doesn't come to life. They advertise all these things, these tonics, like Horlicks or something. The mothers, if you give to your children, they'll be healthy and strong. But if the child dies, you can open the mouth and put in gallons of Horlicks and they won't come to life. So, due to our identification with the body, due to our desire to enjoy this material world, we get a body in which we can have the experience of enjoying, or supposedly enjoying. But logically we can understand that the living force is something completely separate from the body. As long as the Atma is within the body, then the body, the living being is able to experience in terms of the body. But then when the Atma leaves that body, it has no more connection with it. That's what's being explained here in this verse of Bhagavad Gita, that the soul is eternal, but the body is temporary, so there's no real connection, it only seems real. You are Atma, you are eternal. The body is clearly not eternal. Where were you 70 years ago? You were not that body because that body didn't exist. Where will you be 70 years from now? Probably not in that body probably won't be there. So it's not very difficult to understand that the soul is different from the body. At least theoretically we should understand philosophically and not just in terms of our sensual experiences. The platform of understanding simply according to our sensual experiences is the animal platform. The human being is supposed to rise above that platform to the intelligent platform. Is there any other question?
So I fulfill my necessities by myself. So why should I worship the Lord?
Say it again in Tamil. Well, that's another illusion to think that you fulfill your necessities by yourself. Why Tamil Nadu and Karnataka are fighting over water? If you can fulfill the necessities, why don't you just make some more water? Actually, we shouldn't worship God just to fulfill these necessities. That is not the purpose of worshipping Him. But at the same time, we shouldn't think that we're so independent of Him that we do everything by ourselves. If you're independent of God, then stop your disease, stop your death. If you can make all the material arrangements that you want by yourself, then you arrange that you never get sick and you never die. Can you do it? Of course not. So that shows you are controlled, you are not the controller. It's a simple thing to understand.
You said that the Bhakti Lata Beach is, if one is giving up the devotional service, probably it is that he has externally performed devotional service, but actually the Bhakti Lata Beach was not at all implanted.
Yeah, if one gives it up very easily. It may be that someone gives up, after a long time of practicing for various reasons. It may be because of offenses or whatever, but if one just gives up very easily when there's some difficulty, it means that it's clear that his attachment wasn't very strong in the first place. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This man who's asking, he's got Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is. Who's asking the questions? He's reading it. He's only pretending to be an atheist. Is it?
He's saying, I'm not atheist.
Alright, that's good.
Okay.
What do you say?
I'm also devotee.
Is it? Please give me the mercy of your lotus feet. I'm trying to be a devotee, so I can only be a devotee by the mercy of the devotees.